Now back to Lunch with Eleanor on the all-new Fun 93.5 FM, 1090 AM.
Carolyn Moreland has stopped in to visit. She asked me, was something was squeaking. I said, it's my chair. I was about to tell you it was me, but it's the chair. Mrs. Ford, you know Miss Karen.
Sure. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. What do you know today?
Well, I am here to talk about family photography. I've been in the area for about 5.5 years now, taking pictures for people in Hartsville, and I had some important things on my mind that I really wanted to talk to people about, and I thought, hey, if I could come on and see Jerry Richmond, I can get more people to listen at one time, so this is great. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you for coming. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. My family has been growing, of course. The last time I was on here with Jerry was, I don't know how many years back it was, a few years ago. I was taking pictures of local barns in the area and framing them, and it was a project I was working on, so I came on to talk about that. But since then, we've added a couple kids, and we are at 3 kids now. And so a lot of stuff has changed in my family, and I look back at all the pictures that I've taken and how important it is that we have all of those. Before I get into that, I was going to mention something. I don't know if you know, but I sing, and my husband, Kent, plays the guitar. And we were recording a song together the other night, and I happened to make a video of it, and I put a slideshow to it, and it was just beautiful. And so I put all these pictures in there. I was going through all the pictures that I had of our family, and it was amazing, like seeing the timeline of our life together, and it was just beautiful. It created quite a buzz on Facebook, which is kind of neat, but we had a lot of people listen to it, and it was really neat to see all the pictures that we've had over the years and the timeline of just all the changes that happen. And it's going to happen to us whether we want it to or not, but as you know, kids grow up really fast, so I'm grateful that I have all those to look back on, and it was a beautiful memory for our family to hang on to be able to put that video together.
Yeah.
But
you lose them if you don't have some memory records.
That's right.
Lose a lot of the feel of the whole situation when it happened.
That's exactly right. And I've been working on a project for Mr. John Oliver over at the Historical Society. He has asked me from time to time to work on some old photos. He's found these photos that are from like the 1800s, and I retouch them. I put them in the computer, make them digital. I clean up all the scratches and the dust and the things, and color correct them so they're really a lot more beautiful, than the original photo, because photos, tend to break down over time. Well, these photos are from like the 1800s, and they are just awesome to look at. Kent was telling me that there was one of the photos is from one of the courthouses, a couple courthouses ago here in Hartsville, from what I understand. And it was really neat to see all the people that were in that photo. And I don't know any of them personally, but it would be neat for other generations to look at them and see and point out who those people were. But that is the importance of being able to take photos. And one of the biggest things I hear from people is that I don't want my photos taken. I don't like how I look, or whatever the thing is. But really, the photos are not for you. They're for your generations after you. And I mean, just to look at these photos from the 1800s is crazy. Like, do you think any of those people wanted their picture taken? Probably not. But now we, total strangers, 100 and some years later, get to look back on them and just appreciate the history in them and how things were at the time. Not only do you get to see who's in them, but you get to see the buildings that were around and the way people dressed and all the stuff that's on, how a place is decorated or how it's built. Things are just so different, and things will come and go. So to look at that is pretty awesome.
When we talk pictures, right there is how most people take pictures with their phone.
Yes.
And I've got several on there. And it has changed. I don't print any of them.
Yes.
Then that's how, when I think of photography, that we don't have those that are maybe sitting at home somewhere.
Right.
on the table or on a mantle or up on the wall.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned about taking pictures with your cell phone. A lot of people do that now. They just grab their smartphone, they take a picture, and they think, well, I have pictures of my kids all the time, you know. But those are not the type of photos you want to
Smile.
have. Thanks, Jerry. Those are not the type of photos that you want to pass down and hang on to as like the real good memories. You want to be able to take professional photos at least every year. I think of it kind of, Kent and I talk all the time, it's kind of like going to the dentist. You're going to go to the dentist at least every 6 months to a year. And being able to keep your memories fresh and updated every 6 months to a year is so important because so much changes. We want to be able to document all those in between times and not just with our cell phones because those photos are great, but they're not the beautiful memories we're going to look back on where people get dressed and they do themselves up. And it's not the best side of everybody, just taking your daily photos. And I don't think in 100 years we're going to look back at all these selfies and all these random shots and say, wow, that's a really great picture. You know, they're funny and everything, but it's a little bit different. So having those family photos, those professional photos done is really, really important.
Well, you know, in the old days, photographers are people who painted your portrait.
Wow.
They have stock portraits and they put a head on them that have the body already painted.
Wow. Well, I don't paint like that, but and to Jerry's point, it is nice to actually print photos, and those are becoming less and less popular, having those prints around. Most people do have digital photos, but that's another important thing I wanted to mention about when you choose a photographer, you want to pick somebody who's going to be able to be there for you over the years. Choose a photographer that not only is skilled and able to do a good job with the camera and know what they're doing, but you want them to be able to back up your files for you. A good photographer is going to hang on to that stuff. I've never gotten rid of one file from anything I've ever shot a picture of. I have hard drives that have plenty of space on them. I keep all my pictures. So if you ever come across a photographer that if they're just there to have an exchange with you, to take your pictures, take your money, and then, you know, you trade it out, and then you never hear from them again, or they go out of business or something, you know, they may delete your files and you don't know, but you need to make sure you have a good photographer that's going to hang on to that stuff. What should happen if, like, I mean, God forbid you had a fire or a flood or something where your stuff gets ruined, or you didn't save your digital files, maybe you lost your phone if you only had them on your phone or something. You want to go back to your photographer and say, hey, is there any way you can help me out and get that back for me? So that's a very important thing to remember as far as who you're choosing for a photographer.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I had a friend who had her portrait done, and she didn't smile or anything, and she didn't think she was supposed to, and I thought it was horrible. I couldn't stand it. I said, no, we got to put a little grin on you somewhere here.
We can put smiles on you in Photoshop, too, don't worry. They might not look that real, but it's doable.
Well, they used to tell you not to smile, not to show your teeth in the photograph.
Really?
I don't know what that was all about. Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know why it was. I guess you had bad teeth. I don't know what the problem was.
And it's funny that you say that, because looking back at these historical photos that Mr. Oliver has given me, most people don't smile, and I think that's funny. But now that you say that they told people not to do that, that makes sense. Maybe it was a thing of the day at the time.
Well, they got that from George Washington. He had those wooden teeth.
Wooden teeth.
Yes.
Sure.
Wow.
Show your wooden smile and show your wooden teeth for the portrait. No, I don't think so.
Wow. Well, another thing that's really important about choosing the right photographer is not only are they able to, when you choose somebody who's able to maneuver the camera and knows their stuff as far as how to take good photos, you want to think about, too, can the person create art for me? Like, if you stick with the same photographer over time and keep going back to the same person, you're going to have consistencies with your photos, because the way that they edit is the way that they edit. And if you bounce around from one photographer to the next, you may get a certain edit this time and a certain style another time. And all your photos through the years are kind of jumbled, or just they don't look the, consistent quality. But a good photographer can also put stuff together for you over time. They can create art for you, put comparison photos. One of the things I like doing at Christmas time is when I have families come to me to have their Christmas photos done. When they come to me year after year, I can put them side by side with the ones before them. Sometimes we'll do even the same pose. And it's really fun to see the changes. And I love doing that kind of stuff for families. So that's another thing to think about when you pick a photographer. What can they do for you? What kind of skills do they have to be able to showcase your beautiful pictures over time and tell a story of your life? That's the beautiful part about choosing a great photographer with skills.
Well, have you ever thought of going to an assisted living and taking photos?
Well, I have not tapped into that yet, but I did take pictures of Mr. Dalton. What was his first name?
William.
Okay, I was there taking pictures at his 100th birthday party because his granddaughter, Christy, had asked me to come take photos of it, and it was wonderful. I even wrote a blog about it and how important it is to have photos, because how often do you get a 100th birthday? That's a pretty monumental situation right there. So I was very fortunate to be able to capture that, and I was grateful that she asked me to do that. But yes, that is important to show the timeline of your life and sharing that with the family members of, these people once they do pass on. It's a beautiful thing to capture those memories for their family.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I do family photos, I do weddings, I do business photos, and of course, being around here for the last 5.5 years, taking photos, I've done lots of volume photography, like the sports pictures for T-ball and different basketball and groups like that. So I've kind of loved all the avenues of photography that I've been able to get into. I even do product photography for Mueller Refrigeration and several other businesses in the surrounding counties. So there are lots of different ways that I can make photography valuable to different types of people. So it's not just about family photography. It's about all areas of life need photography. So think about that when you're looking for somebody.
Well, I was a florist for years, and everyone cherished all their wedding photos. They loved those.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a great thing to do, and the grandparents would come along and want the grandchildren to pose to be in a picture.
Yes.
Take them by the hand and lead them up to where the other persons were standing. And the children by that time wanted to crawl around in the church or wherever it was occurring and do their own thing. And they couldn't get them to stand, and I'd walk up to them and I'd say, come on. I'd say, come right here. Stand right here. I was very stern. I scared them to death. So,
yes.
So you have some frightened children in photos that I scared to death.
I love it, though. I love how candid kids can be, and they're just so unpredictable, and you get real emotion out of their pictures, and it is a lot of fun to shoot when there's kids around. And you mentioned something that I wanted to touch on also, and that's collective family. Kent and I were talking about this at Christmas time. I get certain families every year that want to get together because they have relatives flying from out of state, or they're home from the military or from school, and that's a great time, Thanksgiving and Christmas, to get your family together and get those memories captured every single year consistently, because so much changes. You never know what's going to happen between this year and next. And
yes, but you have good ideas. So
yes,
you know how to work it, and I think you do a great job.
Well, thank you. And weddings are another time where family gets together collectively, all the aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents, and we get those big groups of pictures of families, and those are great times to point out. Those are life events. Those are great times to point out all the different people that are in the photo and say, hey, look, I look like so-and-so, Uncle Bob, he and I look alike, or don't you think he looked like me at this age? And when you don't have those pictures to go back on and compare, how are you ever going to put those side by side and know that stuff? That's really valuable to families.
Of course, you've got a nice digital camera.
I do.
See, I remember back in the day where people had to put film
Yes.
in a camera. Did you have to do any of that?
No, actually, Kent did photography before I did. He got into it, and when he did it, he said he was learning on film, and then it all transitioned over to digital about that time. So that was a few years before I got started. But now that it's really mostly digital, I found in the last couple of years, some of these big photographers are kind of going back to the film. They like the look that it creates, and it's a whole thing all over again. I have not gotten into it, but it's a thing amongst professional photographers nowadays to go back to that look.
Seemed like you wouldn't want to do that, because back in the day when you had that film, you didn't know what that picture looked like until it was developed and came back.
Right.
Now you can look at it on your camera, and if it's not good, you can delete it.
Exactly, and try again. Yep.
Right.
I haven't been as brave to try the film right now, but yeah, it does take a lot of practice and certainly takes some skill.
So if somebody wanted to set up a family portrait, what would they need to do? Just give you a call?
Yes, there's a few ways that I can be contacted. You can give me a call or text me. My phone number is, it's okay to get that on here, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. It's 615-772-3784. Or you can visit my website, which is just KarenMorelandPhotography.com, and email me through there, or I'm on Facebook also. You can find me in all sorts of different ways, and I'm in the phone book here in Hartsville.
Want to digress a moment. What is Kent doing these days?
He does web development. He builds custom websites for people and does a beautiful job.
Right. I've seen some work that he's done for the chamber.
Yes.
And he's very good at that.
Yes, he is.
Does he still I know in times past, if somebody broke a phone, a cover of a phone, I've seen stuff on the Facebook. I broke my phone. Who do I need to talk to? Kent Moreland.
Yes, he does do a lot of phone replacements still. So if you have a broken phone, you can certainly reach out to him through Facebook Messenger. He's not on Facebook, but on Messenger, he will get your message that way. He will replace a lot of phones just depending on what it is. So certainly.
I want to tell you one story about Kent. I remember this, and I don't know why, but I do. Of course, now just about everybody has a Yeti. The first one I ever saw, Kent had at, it was a chamber meeting one time.
Oh, okay.
I've always remembered that first one I ever saw, Kent Moreland had.
That's too funny.
What's Craig up to?
Craig is still in the insurance business. I believe he is, he's not in town here, but I believe he still goes to people anywhere. So he's not out of town, but he runs his own show. So if you need some insurance, he's the guy to go to.
Okay. Captain Ron still driving the big boat?
He is, yes. Yeah.
That was a fun thing. We'd go and he would be our pilot. We'd have a grand time. We felt like dignitaries with that deal.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We go sometimes at Christmas and see down the river in Nashville at night, and it's beautiful.
And I don't see how they're running the school system without your mother-in-law. She was wonderful.
She has been in retirement since our first child, Kale, was born, I believe. But she goes and fills in different counties and does substitute teaching here and there. So that's been really neat. But she can't do too many days, or she won't be in retirement anymore. But they absolutely love her, and they're very lucky to have her.
They're dear people, all of them.
Yes, and speaking of which, I have a wonderful family, and I'm so glad you guys are talking about them. And we really, really appreciate that they are here for us and that we live in the same town as them. And just being able to have them around is awesome. And all the more reason to take photos whenever we get the chance. Like at least every year I try to get photos with them, with our kids, so that there's grandchildren photos, and with us in them. We all have busy lives, but at some point every year we just try to get some photos. And I want my kids to look back on those and say, yeah, this was my grandma and my granddaddy, or this is my grandmommy and my grandpa, my parents. And they love being with them. So, whenever my parents come in town, it's great that my kids get to see them also. And we got some photos with my dad when he was in town recently. And my mom comes, every few months or at least once a year. And it's just awesome to be able to look at that stuff. And again, people don't always want their photos taken, but it's not for them. It's for our family. And it's not about you. So it's wonderful to be able to look at that stuff. And I'm really grateful that we can capture those of my in-laws and of my family as well. It's important.
Well, you are a treasure. You are a joy.
Oh, thank you.
I enjoyed speaking with you. I think you're a fine young lady.
Thank you so much, Miss Ford.
Well, tell all your folks hello for me.
I sure will. Thank you. And I'm glad to talk to you.
Tell me again, you got 3 kids, right?
Yes, we do.
I need to know, you've got some athletes coming?
Well,
Oh, no.
we do. But our family is actually into Taekwondo at the time. My son, Kale, has been taking Taekwondo for about a year and a half. And then about 3 or 4 months ago, my husband and our middle daughter joined. So 3 in the family are taking Taekwondo right now. And I always say when our youngest gets older, then she and I will join. So right now, Kent and Kale and Kaylee, they take a family class in Gallatin, and it's been wonderful. So that's kind of been our sport. Before then, Kale would, take t-ball or basketball, whatever's going on at the time. But this Taekwondo has been all-consuming, and it's like every day there's something going on. So it's really neat that our family's been able to get involved with that sort of thing.
Cool.
But our youngest child, she's about a year and a half. She is strong, and I think she's going to be our athlete. I think she can pick something up and throw it across the room at you, and you just got to look out.
Jerry will be happy to manage her.
Okay. We'll get her hooked up with the right people when she gets a little bigger.
Oh, my goodness. Anything that we should have talked about that we haven't talked about in this photography line?
Well, I think I covered about everything. I think that's about it. Just how important it is. You've got to get that stuff scheduled every 6 months to a year, and you've got to be able to take down all those memories. And photography is not as expensive as people might think. I think people have this idea that photography is super expensive and it's something that they can't afford to do, but really there's nothing more important you should be investing in. And there's always a package to fit every budget. So if nothing else, just reach out to a photographer and see what they're offering, and there may be a way that they can work with you to get something set up.
Of course, we've just gone through Christmas. But
Yes.
as we go toward the next Christmas, my sister had some family pictures made last year.
Okay.
And at Christmas time, many of the gifts that she handed out were those pictures.
Yes.
And that's pretty cool because
Yes,
she
it
gave me
is.
some pictures that otherwise I would never have had.
Yes. I think that's neat that you mentioned that. I'm glad that you did. I have a lot of families that do that same thing. They want to get their pictures made, and not necessarily Christmas photos, but maybe just fall family photos or anything. And then they'll turn around and make prints out of everything and make them as gifts, frame them, or do different things and make photo gifts for their family. And those are wonderful gifts. And that's the perfect gift for somebody who has everything, especially when it comes to grandparents. They've got everything that they need. So making pictures and giving those gifts is something that they will absolutely treasure for a lifetime.
You don't do any framing, do you?
I don't do framing. I can always recommend different places to go to, but yep.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, having the photos to give people is important, but also at Christmas time, you can give gift certificates to people to have a family photo shoot, or even if you don't want to pay for the whole thing, you can have, part of the gift certificate go towards it. So that's another great gift. Even if you're not wanting pictures yourself, you can do that for somebody else.
Okay.
Now, don't act like Jerry's stingy. He's not stingy. He starts spending things with paper, and it doesn't have anything printed on it. You don't have to worry about it. Oh, my. Well, I've insulted him enough for today. I'll give him a chance to insult me. But it was good to talk with you today. We always enjoy having you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Glad
it.
you could be with us.
All right. Thank you, Miss Ford, and thank you, Jerry.
Yes.
Carrie Moreland, thank you so much. Tell Ken I said hello.
I sure will.
Is he listening?
Yes, he is.
All right, good deal.
Oh, he wanted me to say Tennessee trucking is what Craig is doing.
Okay.
Let me squeeze that in there. Yes, he will bring gravel and all kinds of stuff. I totally forgot about that. Thanks, Kent.
Okay.
Oh, my. You'd have to kill you, wouldn't
Good deal.
Yes, you can reach out to Craig.
Good deal.
Well, listen to us next time. We'll be having interesting things to talk about.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. Ford, thank you so much, and you stay warm this weekend.
I will. I told you what to do now. So do it. And have fun. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Karen, thank you so much.
Thank you.